everybody. So I am presenting on the poet Natalie Diaz, and my presentation is called Natalie Diaz, The Life and Times of a Poet. So just a little background information on Natalie Diaz. She is a full-blooded Mojave Native American. She was born in the Fort Mojave Indian Village in Needles, California. And she is, oh gosh, I hope I'm saying this right. She is an enrolled member of the Gila River Indian community. And when she went to college, she went to college at Old Dominion University, where she earned her Bachelor in Arts. And she went on a full athletic scholarship. She played basketball, and she actually played professionally in Europe and Asia before she came back to the States and earned her master's once again at Old Dominion. So, fun times all around for her. She currently lives in Mojave Valley, Arizona, where she works with the last speakers of the native Mojave language and works to revitalize the language and keep it alive for further generations. So she is doing other great things besides working on and publishing poetry. So the works of Natalie Diaz specifically. She only has one book out right now, which is When My Brother Was an Aztec, which was published in 2012. But coming soon later this year, she is publishing either just one poem or a book of poems. My sources didn't say specifically, but the working title for this work is Post-Colonial Love Poem. So most likely it's going to be about, colonialism and how it affects, just putting two and two together, how it affects Native Americans and things like that. So be on the lookout for a new work by Natalie Diaz soon. She has won a lot of awards, however, and I just have a few examples here. So she was a 2012 Lannan Literary Selection. That's a handful to say. She won the 2013 Penn Open Book Award. And in 2018, she was named as the Maxine and Jonathan Marshall Chair in Modern and Contemporary Poetry at Arizona State University. So, again, fun times all around for Ms. Diaz, winning all those awards and publishing new books. So, When My Brother Was an Aztec specifically. So from what I understood from this book was that it focuses a lot on her family's hidden secrets. There's some poems in there that show the struggles of being born into a group of marginalized peoples, aka the Native Americans. But most importantly, there are several poems in When My Brother Was an Aztec about Diaz watching her brother struggle with drug addiction. More specifically, his addiction to meth. So there's poems in there that show, how it affects her, how it affects him, how it affects her family, and how it affects her the community around her. So, with that, I'm going to step to the side a little bit, stop talking about drug addiction, and do a poetry reading for you from When My Brother Was an Aztec. And this poem is called If Eve, Side Stealer, and Mary Busted Chest Ruled the World. What if Eve was an Indian, and Adam was never needed from the earth? Eve was earth, and ribs were her idea all along. What if Mary was an Indian, and when Gabriel visited her wigwam, she was away at a monthly WIC clinic, receiving eggs and boxed cheese and peanut butter instead of Jesus? What if God was an Indian, with turquoise wings and coral breast, who invented a game called white man chess, played on silver boards with all white pieces, and pawns and kings, and only one side, the white side. And the more they won, the more they were beaten. What if the world was an Indian, whose head and back were flat from being strapped to a cradle board as a baby? And when she slept, she had nightmares lit up by yellow-haired men and ships scraping anchor across her throat. What if she wailed all night while great waves rose up, carrying the fleets across her flat back, over the edge of the flat world? And that was my poetry reading of If Eve, Side Stealer, and Mary Busted Chest Ruled the World. So, just let's do a quick critical review of this book. So, there is a lot of deep, dark stuff in this book. We'll get into that in just a minute, but another quick point that I want to talk about is compare it to Erica Worth. She is another Native American poet. Some of you may know her. We talked about her a lot in fiction workshop last semester. So we'll talk about that. So coming back a little bit to the deep dark stuff. So there's a lot of poems in here that talk about marginalized groups of peoples who are poverty stricken. And I just have a quote here from a poem on page 30 in the book. And it says, "Corned beef comes on the 1st of every month. This is the meat of hunger. In white cans with bold black lettering." You know, just as I recited, here's another example, you know, of the life of marginalized Native peoples living in poverty. And this is still happening, sadly. If you think just back to the poetry reading, there was mentions of WIC and, you know, receiving only the necessities to feed your family. So there is that. And, you know, we're gonna go back to the meth habit, okay, just for a second. So there is another poem called "The Clouds Are Buffalo Limping Towards Jesus," and it's only 3 lines. It's on page 39, and it says, "Weeping blooms of white smoke." So, like I said, it's 3 short lines. It's a very simple and short poem, but it says a lot, really. I kind of thought to myself, is it clouds in the sky, or, you know, is it meth smoke? Because, listen, I had to look up on how people do meth, and people smoke it. See, I don't do drugs, and I'm kind of ignorant towards that, so I had no idea. So, yes. And just the wording of this poem, you know, the words limping and the word weeping, you know, it's a lot of sad, dark times. So I'm going to quickly go through the comparison of Erica Worth. As you can see, or I have written here, 2 works from 2 different authors, Diaz and Worth. So Worth also writes of deep, dark stuff. So Worth, I have here, is from Buckskin Cocaine. And the quote I have here was, "My life was so glamorous and trashy and lovely, and I was drunk and high, and I felt like a rock star." Whereas on the other hand, I have a Diaz poem on the other side that says, "Your brother will still itch when you are seated at your table. He will rake his fork against his skin. Look closer. His skin is a desert. Half a red racer is writhing along his forearm. A migration of tarantulas move like a shadow over his sunken skin." You know, a lot of deep, dark stuff here. So, that is my presentation on Miss Diaz. So, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you all later.